When I look at the heavens, the work of thy fingers, the moon and the stars which thou hast established, what is man that thou art mindful of him, and the son of man that thou dost care for him? Yet that thou hast made him little less than God, and dost crown him with honor and glory. Thou hast given him dominion over the works of thy hands. Thou hast put all things under his feet, all sheep and oxen, also the beasts of the field, the birds of the air and the fish of the sea, and whatever passes along the paths of the sea. O Lord, our Lord, how majestic is thy name in all the earth. And that psalm really speaks to me, and about the universe that God has created, and we're one tiny little speck of it. I got an email a while ago from someone who had a picture of Earth from outer space, and so this little green speck in the picture, that's Earth with all our kingdoms and nationalities and nations and fights and whatnot. That tiny little speck in this picture is us, and yet God cares for all the people on this planet. And if there's any other universe, I'm sure he cares for them too. But in any case, cares for all of us in this tiny little corner of his marvelous universe. And we as a telephone Zoom group gathered here, he cares for us this day and cares for each one of us. And so I just celebrate a God that can create all that and still focus upon our gathering here. And then a gathering which seems amazing to us when we stop and think about it. Just a few years ago, if we had said we'd gather on our telephones or computers, we said, huh? And yet here we are, and we praise God for that.
Amen.
Amen.
Well, how about if we have a word of prayer then?
All right.
Lord God, we gather in what seems huge and almost infinite to us across the state and possibly greater. And yet it's a tiny little speck of your universe. And yet we know that you care for us and care for each person on this line, those who are here, those who have commitments otherwise for fundraising or gathering with family. Bless each one, O Lord. Bless our time together, that we might honor you and find ways to better serve you. And we offer this in the name of your Son. Amen.
Amen. May I make a comment, Art?
Sure.
You know, as you were reflecting, I thought it's really interesting that God so loves us that he sent Jesus to us as one little speck in the universe to save our souls.
Amazing. So
that just is so amazing to me.
You know, and on another point, Art, you mentioned who would imagine meeting on our telephones. It reminded me of the conversation I think we had one of the last times where we talked about party lines back in the old days when telephones weren't private lines like they are now, and they were a party line, and so you could, if somebody was on the phone, you could pick the phone up and hear somebody else talking.
Yep. And I can remember when I was a kid, we went to the 1965 World's Fair in New York, and they talked about having video, you know, being able to call people and see them as you spoke with them. And that was way back, you know, 1965. And it wasn't even, you know, technology wasn't quite available. They had talked about it developing something like that. Now it happens all the time. It's really interesting how much progress has been made, you know, and you got to know that the Lord has given man the knowledge and the ability to create these things. Otherwise they wouldn't be happening.
Exactly.
That's true. That's
exactly.
True. So true.
Just a few statements, you know, regarding the devotion.
Given dominion over the earth and all the earth. Yes.
So we don't really have, again, we don't really have an agenda, formal agenda, as usual, which is probably just as well, because we can just talk and whatever anybody wants to talk about. But I was kind of telling Marion that we had been a couple of us went out to the Outdoor Education Center last week to talk with Matthew about what camp looks like for February. And So the couple of things, and if you remember the conversation about summer camp, that they were going to be limiting the number of people. I'm not sure how you came up with that number, Rosemary, but we kind of looked at it in terms of the winter camp out at the Outdoor Education Center. And there it kind of boils down to bunk space and dinner space. And so they are going to be only having 4 people at a table.
Okay.
And they can accommodate, that number may fluctuate a little bit, but say 12 tables, say that he was throwing out 12 tables of 4 is like 48 people.
Right, right.
So, and then as we looked at the bunking, they've basically got their bunks sort of diagonally spaced in terms of accommodation.
Okay.
Then say on a double bunk, or say on a bunk where you've got you could have 2 people. They have the like the head on one side and the feet on the other. So like the bottom bunk might have the feet towards the aisle, and then the top bunk would have the head towards the aisle, so that people's breathing is separate, even if.
Oh, gotcha. Yep. So
even if
they're
they're above each
staggered.
other.
So,
So as we looked at the
bottom to top, top to bottom. I got you.
right.
right, and then it's every other bunk diagonally. So as I was relating to Marion, if everybody only had a top bunk or a bottom bunk, I'm sorry, there would be there's 22 bunk spaces in the women's dorm, and actually in the men's as well. There is a couple of extra beds in the women's side, and if people are willing to take a top bunk, that might increase it some more by a few. And I know Rosemary, you and Shirley do top bunks, and Marion said she would do a top bunk. So we may send out a survey of some sort to see if people are willing to take a top bunk aside from the application
Mhm.
process, so we kind of know ahead of time a little bit.
Yeah, because generally, Mr. Buster, you would say top or bottom bunk. That's what you put on the application. So.
Right. Yeah, actually, we used to do that, and we kind of took it off because everybody wanted a bottom bunk pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we can put that back on again, and
but if they're gonna choose, mostly they're gonna try to choose a bottom bunk, and that's not so.
right.
Yeah.
And so anyway,
Yeah, how we came up with 20 people is because at our last camp we had 35, and we had to decide how many bunks, or how many first of all, how many people could be accommodated safely in the dining hall, and then how many people we had to spread around for the cabins and such, because we don't have a dormitory like they do at the at the winter camp.
okay.
So and we ended up with 5 women and 4 men. So the 4 men were in one of the cabins, and 2 of the ladies plus a volunteer were in a cabin that's across from our lodge. And then we had I think 4 of us up in the lodge, because 4 or 5 of us. I don't recall, but I know Shirley and I always share rooms. We were okay. We were both vaccinated, and then there was, I think Andrea had a room, and then one of the other gals had a room. So that's kind of how we did that. And then when we were doing crafts, everybody just kind of, did, kind of settled at a table wherever they wanted at the crafts that they chose to do. So, but because we had so few of us, that worked out okay,
Right. Right. So that's kind of, and actually, we do have bunks in the, and so this was looking at the top, if you want to call it the crow's nest in the dorms as well, using the bunks up there. And so
using the ones in the loft or the ones in the back.
well, both.
The ones in the loft.
We also counted the ones in the loft.
Cool, because I used to like going up in the loft. That was because you have a bathroom up there and everything else. That made things real convenient up there.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's last year, a couple of years ago, we could not have people up there. And actually the last camp we were allowed to have people up there. But I just don't think we did. But they've modified the building to meet fire code.
Uh-huh.
So now it's fine to have people up there. So
Yeah.
that's available to us. And we also have rooms in the lodge where some of the volunteers can sleep if they, if they're staying over.
Right, right.
So-
Well, I certainly would like to be up in the loft. Shirley and I would like to be up in the loft if that's available again.
Okay. All right.
Because it
Yeah.
helps with the dog and everything that we don't have people.
Then there's more space. You got people, not people running all over you. I
Right,
got
exactly.
you, Rosemary. 'Cause I can sleep either way. I can go either way because I really like it up there, but it doesn't matter to me whether I'm up or down. It does, as long as I can do a top bunk, it's no problem with me at all. And if I can be assistance to someone, I am. You know that,
Oh,
Rosemary.
yeah. And then what was kind of cool is up in the loft, it was easy to climb up into a.
That was
Who's got a-
Chastity.
Okay, somebody send us a message.
I put a message on the chat about
Sorry
Wayne.
about
Oh, that was you.
Well,
Okay.
that was-
Yeah, I
I
was
think
like,
it was-
what?
I think it was reading, somebody's screen reader was reading it to them. So,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was. It was like, what?
Yeah, but yeah, that would be easy. I mean, it'd give it more space. And then you got that little room that sleeps too.
we're right. And that's usually where the dorm monitor stays.
Right,
That's
exactly.
best that they stay there. Yeah.
And then there's in the women's side there are a couple of beds out in the hallway.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that too.
we've used
I
those.
personally wouldn't like being there. It'd be too cold. Everybody coming in and out, going to join.
Well, I got it don't matter if I still have to sleep out there. That's fine because I got an electric blanket anyway. So, so
So
hey,
anyway, well, Ron, so that's so we may have to keep looking at that in terms of fine tuning the number of people, that we can take. And I know that in the past we haven't had this problem the last couple of years, other than the fact that we've had people calling to like the very last minute wanting to come, and we've been able to accommodate them, but we may have to set a deadline.
Okay.
Mr. Bossy,
Yes.
you did that before, but they still kept on doing it. But you're gonna have to
Well,
say what you mean and mean what you say, and say it's a deadline, and I'm not changing it.
Right.
You can't
Well,
change it.
yeah.
Because like the only reason that we extended our deadline at summer camp is because we only had the 9 campers. So if there were a few more that wanted to come, we extended it, to the date that we had to give the food service a number of people. Otherwise, we would, because usually when we have set our deadline, that's it. We don't accept any applications or anybody after that. So
well,
Yeah, like if you say January 19th is the cutoff date, and no more.
and with this particular situation, it's going to have to be more strict because
right.
you can only have, and I guess I would, if you have a certain number, you need to state, okay, winter camp this year is going to be a total of 48 people. And the first 48 people who apply will, because that's what we did, will be able to come to camp. Any checks or applications received after that will be returned. That's all.
Right.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
it.
and that's what we will probably do.
And also,
kind
in our camp, we also said you had to send proof of vaccination with your application. We weren't
Correct.
accepting anybody who had like vaccination 2 weeks before because you don't know. They people make up stuff. No, we wanted proof of vaccination, and we had that from our volunteers as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know we've talked about that. The other, did you guys consider like a negative COVID test within 72 hours?
No.
Is there a reason for that? I know that's.
Well, the reason
happening these days.
for that is because, at the point we were doing it, because of the Delta virus wasn't, as extreme as now. The reason we did that was because as long as people were vaccinated, we believed that they were safe enough.
I see. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So we'll be.
And I believe that there's a Delta booster that's out there or that they're developing, so that by the time winter camp may come around, we may have to go for a booster shot to deal with the Delta virus.
They have approved the booster for persons who are 65 years of age or older, or those who are imminent this is for the Pfizer vaccine. Those who, have a
Immune deficiency, immune deficiency.
deficiency, or at risk persons.
Health, yeah, people who are health risks like diabetic, heart disease, different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So,
And also some frontline, they're considering also frontline people.
Right.
Frontline workers.
Oh,
Right.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like
So-
hospital workers, clinic workers, anybody who's,
and it may be
exposed a
that by
lot.
the time February rolls around, they've approved it for anybody 16 and up. So that's what they were going for. That's what Pfizer was asking for, but the FDA would only approve it for 65 and the other groups that we just talked about. So, yeah, that's it continues to be kind of a challenge, obviously, and
Well, you can only do the best you can. That's all you can
Yeah.
do.
we want to make sure everybody's safe and stays healthy because we don't want the people that have gotten COVID or that have tested positive that are vaccinated, haven't been as sick, but
No.
still it's not something you want to have.
And they can
What's
still
kind of
spread it.
interesting is that they call them Typhoid Mary. Because they're carriers, but they're not experiencing symptoms.
Right.
Mhm.
So I just went to a big Lions conference, the USA Canada Forum,
Oh, okay.
and that was out in Des Moines, Iowa, and I wore my mask everywhere I went.
Mhm.
Didn't matter, except when I was eating. But they had reduced their table settings from 10 to a table to 6, which was helpful.
Mhm.
Felt pretty comfortable with that. But then they also have these big, and people were pretty good about distancing. They didn't sit right next to each other, but masking kind of fell off after the first day or so. And so I was, of course, I caught a cold and I didn't feel very good, so I wasn't,
Oh, gee.
I wasn't being real sociable with folks anyway. And but
Okay.
so I guess they got a note that 2 people had reported testing positive after that. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens, with this.
Well, fortunately, it's only 2 and not a bunch of them.
Well, that was so far. That was like 2 days after the conference was over.
Oh,
Something like that. I had a test done because I thought, I wasn't experiencing symptoms, but I didn't feel good, and
Mhm.
so I thought, well, maybe I should just go ahead and check anyway, and I was fine. So my kids were proud of me for not catching it. But so Ron had asked about because one of the things we sent a letter out, Rosemary, I don't know, you probably wouldn't have seen it, but Ron had seen it. We sent a letter out recently that basically telling people that there's been changes at the camp, and one of the things that has also happened besides them putting in some limitations on numbers and that their costs are going up, or the cost to us is going up because they've taken on a food service vendor to do their food service work, so the meals. And this was one of those things where the Battle Creek Public, this is a company that serves the Battle Creek Public School system. So, it's one of those things where, theoretically they can get things cheaper, even though they're increasing the price, which makes a lot of sense, but it's all about the money. So anyway, so the staff is still the same. So like the lady that was the cook last year, I can't remember her name, Candy or something like that. She's still the head of the kitchen. But I think it's a matter of where they're how they buy their food is what's changed. So the meal prices have gone up kind of significantly. Probably $3 to $4 a meal or something like that. And and then for whatever reason, their laundry service has gone up because it used to cost us $6 for a linen pack, and now it's going to be like $10, for a linen for them to get the linens washed and bagged up and sterilized and all that sort of stuff. So there's a few things that are going up, and So we sent a letter out to God and everybody, basically,
Oh,
basically
that-
saying that,
that's
hey, our costs are going up and we need your help. So we actually published a list of ways to contribute. And so starting at $25 all the way up to $1,500 if they wanted to sponsor like a Paul Helm lunch. Paul Helm is a guy who was a Serial City Lion, but he ran the camp for like 20 years,
I remember Paul Helm and
Actually,
him
30
and
years. Actually 30 years. And it was his aunt that started the camp. His aunt was a teacher at Ann J. Kellogg School. She was blind, and she started the camp in 1969, basically to give young people, visually impaired people, to think something to do in the wintertime. So, at one time they had 120 people out at that camp.
oh yeah.
So
Oh, wow.
if you can imagine,
That's a lot of people.
Now, Marion, I don't know what the most you've ever seen.
I think I was there because I've been going to the camp, Roger, since 1981.
Okay,
Oh, wow.
they had pretty big numbers back then, and
Yeah.
that's when they had strict guidelines on the number of people that could attend.
Yeah,
because
because I can remember, Paul Helm was there, and I forget the guy who was the big, the kind of the counselor for all the people. I want to say his name was Arnie something. Because at one point they thought he had died, and he didn't. He showed up again. There was a rumor that he had passed away, and
Oh,
then
wow.
he showed up. But he
yeah,
used to play guitar, and we used to sit out there by the in the great room by the fireplace, and we'd all play guitar and sing, and he was
wow.
one of the people who did that. And years ago, some people may or may not remember that, but we used to go down the basement and make ice cream.
Mm.
Yep, we would go down the basement, and they had the ice cream makers. You had to crank and crank and crank. We'd
Yep.
make ice cream. Then we would also on Saturday we'd go out and they'd have a bonfire where they cook burgers and hot dogs out at the bonfire, and some people wanted to do that instead of going to lunch. And we used to do that too. Of course, cross country skiing was a big thing back then.
Mhm.
And
Right.
yeah, and we also one time we did ice fishing. That was kind of cool.
Mm.
And on one other time we did snowshoeing.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That was kind of fun.
Mhm.
But the ice fishing was interesting. That was kind of cool. I don't know if anybody ever caught
I think it's
it.
very cool.
Well, it was
I
fun because
didn't know-
they drilled a hole in the ice on the lake, and we were put our fishing poles down there. It was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun.
I didn't know that place had a basement.
Yeah.
Yeah, it actually walks out. If you're behind the building, it's a walk out to the back side of the building.
Okay.
which
Out
you
towards
may-
the lake.
You may out towards the lake. And
Yeah.
Okay.
when we did some snowshoeing last year or so ago, that's where we geared up to go out to go snowshoeing, was out
Mm.
that back door in the basement. So
Because
Yeah, they,
inside the basement door is in that hallway between the snake room and the great room. It's on that side of
Yeah.
the hallway, the entrance to the basement.
but I think in later years, it's not as cold as it used to be, and so they have concerns about the lake
Right.
ice now, and so that's why they haven't really allowed anybody to go out on
No.
the ice like they used to,
Okay.
because they probably used to take snowmobiles out there.
Yes, we did.
Oh,
I
wow.
remember when I was, 30 years ago, my nephew came up and we went out to Pine Lake, one of the local lakes around here, and there was a ton of snowmobiles out there. Now people take them out and they fall through. so,
Hmm.
so it's really not safe anymore to go
Yeah.
unless you've got
My-
a
Yeah, well, because
My-
they used to
my
let
dad
us
fell through a
drive,
couple years ago.
because when they used to bring the snowmobiles, the blind person could drive, and the person who had the snowmobile would be behind you, and it would help you to steer, and we'd go out on the lake and zip around out there and have fun.
Yes.
you wouldn't hit a tree.
You were right. Exactly.
Because they help
Exactly.
us steer through the trees to get to the lake. And once
Yeah.
we're on the lake, because it was snow, enough snow
Yeah.
that once we're on the lake, we'd zip around out there a little bit. And then, when the time to come back, they would help us steer through the trees until we got back to the lodge, and then,
Right.
turn off the machine. And it was a fun time. And then people didn't want to drive. They had a sled on the back of the
Mhm.
snowmobile that they would, you could ride in that little sled thing. And I always like to drive, so I didn't go on the sled.
Well, David, you were saying something a minute ago. I'm sorry, I missed that.
Oh, that's right. My dad, he was riding on a snowmobile a couple of years ago, and with my brother, they were up north at our cabin at Houghton Lake, and they're riding out on Houghton Lake, and they were near the Denton River, and this was near a time where it had been recently warm, and then it cooled back down, and my dad didn't see where the ice had changed, so he accidentally fell in.
Oh no.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, it can happen. It can happen.
but thankfully my brother didn't fall in because he turned the skis of his snowmobile away from that area.
Oh, okay. So he was maybe behind your dad a little bit and saw what was going on.
Yeah, well, actually, he was, I think, more towards the right of my dad. But if I would have went on that trip, I usually ride with Dad. I would have went on the back of the snowmobile, so I would have followed in as well.
Right.
So he was okay. I'm assuming he was
Right.
okay.
Yeah, he was just he was just cold and wet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ruined the snowmobile.
Yeah. And Rosemary, you were mentioning making the ice cream. That one of my memories of that camp is making ice cream as probably an 8 or 9 year old kid when I was there as a camper in the summer.
Ah,
One of the big things was making ice cream.
yeah, it was fun because then
Yeah.
you put the ingredients in those ice cream, makers, and
Yep.
then
And
we'd all
crank and
take
crank
turns
and crank.
cranking until it turned into ice cream, and then they would serve it at the snack time that evening.
Yep.
So they probably, there's probably regulations against doing that kind of thing nowadays.
Well, I
Mhm.
think that's why they had to stop, because I think there was some health regulations or some kind of something that prevented us from doing it anymore. But it was fun while it lasted.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's a lot of things we used to do that we can't do anymore because of health regulations and just
Health
liabilities
regulations.
and all those sorts of
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, okay, I gotta put my hand up, I guess. What do I push? Star
That's
69,
okay.
star?
You're fine. We got you, Mary.
Just talk.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're fine.
I think the reason why they stopped making ice cream, because Rosemary, you probably remember the short, real, I call her the munchkin, the white-haired lady that used to come. She was totally blind. I think she fell down the basement steps. I believe that's the reason why they stopped it.
Well,
'Cause-
maybe. I don't recall that having happened.
Yeah, I
but
remember
then
that
we
one.
may not have heard about that,
Well, they've kind of
That's
had
when
that
it-
area roped off. They've had that area kind of roped off the last few years. Like they don't want people to go down there. But
Right.
Right, yeah. They just locked it. I think they just locked the basement.
yeah.
Well, the Lions, I know a couple of times, a year before last or a couple of years ago, didn't they bring the live snakes from the snake room? Didn't they have to go in the basement and get it to let you all see it, when you was in the lobby by the fire? Then the one year they had the live snakes, they let you feel
They
the
had them
snake.
when they were in the snake room. They had them lay down on the tables in the snake room.
Yeah, the
Oh, I
snake room
thought
was
they had
named the
brought 'em
snake
out there
room
in the
because that's where the
lobby.
snakes are. The
No,
snake-
they laid them out because it was like, I guess one of them was a boa constrictor. It was a big, long,
Yeah.
fat snake. And they had him laid
Mhm.
out because he was like 6 foot long, and they had him laid out on one of the tables, and you could go in and touch him. And it was pretty cool. I liked it. Of course, I'm weird anyway. I like stuff like that.
Well, that's why I said I know they brought them up. They had to go in the basement to get them. So
No,
evidently,
they're not in the basement. The snakes are in the snake room. They're in they're
right,
behind
I know they're in
glass.
the snake room, but then to open the back of the cage for them to take them out, because that was total glass right there. You couldn't open
Oh
it.
yeah,
from
they
there.
probably had to go through the basement to get them out.
They had to go in the
from back,
basement, open
right.
it from the back, and bring them upstairs.
Right.
No,
So they
big-
had to do that.
I've
But
been
it
in
was
there when they
cool.
took
I
the
really
snakes out.
liked
There's a door in the back behind the glass, and they go around it.
Yeah,
They've done, to take snakes in and out when we've had the devotional time in there, and I've watched them. And
Oh, okay.
I was the only sighted person in the room, and I knew that some people were very apprehensive about the snakes, so I didn't say anything to them when they're taking the snakes in and putting them out. But I watched.
Am I listening to Mr. Art Turner?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I thought so.
that's okay.
Because I wasn't going nowhere near.
Yep.
I really liked touching the snakes because I thought that was pretty cool because I liked feeling what they
Mhm.
felt like, you know, because I've
Mhm.
never been able to feel a snake. I've seen them before, but I've never felt one. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
The best thing to do is go to the Cayman Islands and feel the back of the turtles.
Mm.
I've been there and did it. It was they
Oh, that
move a
sounds
little
like
bit,
cool.
but you know,
Are those
Yeah.
great big turtles, Marion?
Yeah. Well, the one the man had was like, then I wasn't babies, but they were like medium, and he would take them. The
Yeah,
African
sea
man would take
turtles.
them. Yeah, and you can scratch the back of his neck, and he flap his feet, and then he put them back. But then they had the big sea turtles in the pool, and they're as big as your dining room,
Whoa.
Dining room table. Yeah.
big as a dining room table or bigger.
Hmm.
And it was
One
really
time-
interesting.
sorry.
A lot
Yeah.
of places they don't let you touch turtles because they carry salmonella. So they
Well, probably not now, but I
Right.
mean, when we were over in the Cayman Islands, that
didn't care.
they let
Well,
us.
over there they
touch
probably
'em.
don't care.
Thanks a lot, Roger. Thanks a
Well,
lot.
they just don't have the
But I
right.
mean, it was
sometimes-
nice. It was really nice. It was really. I mean, I enjoyed it when I was over there for a week. It was really, really
Hmm.
in Mexico. It was really nice.
They let you swim
over
with
there.
they let you swim with the stingrays too.
Oh no, they didn't let us do that one. I wasn't doing that one. Sorry.
Hey, Jack Brewer just joined us.
Yeah, I've been trying to figure out how to work my computer.
Oh,
How you doing, Jack?
oh, Jack.
Jack
Hi,
Brewer
Jack.
from
Hi,
Muskegon.
Jack.
Hello.
Hey, Jack.
Okay.
That's okay.
I'm Marion from.
I've been having some problems with some computers and I had to have the hard drive replaced on this one.
Hmm.
And Jack took me over to Best Buy. I bought a new one, so I'm waiting for that one to be ready to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Pardon me, I had to mute myself to
Quiet.
cough. So,
Okay.
Jack, you can see who's on the call, right? You know how to do that on Zoom? Click
yeah,
on,
it has to just go to the
click on participants and you can see who's on the call at the bottom of your screen. But
the box that has like participants. If he clicks on that, it'll open up and
Right.
list
no, but
everybody.
anyway, we've got Art Turner, myself, and David Sterneman, Marion Ward, and Roseberry. So
Ron was here, but then he had to leave because he went to the
with the
Irish
party.
Festival to volunteer.
So tell us about the Irish Fest. What is Irish Fest?
It's a big musical festival that they have every year, and they do Irish music, is my understanding, and then they have dancers and different entertainment.
Wow.
And of course, a lot of people of Irish. I think they also in years past. I'm not sure if they're doing it this year. They'd have like, like a art fair kind of thing. Where you could buy different things. That are Irish. So it's basically. As far as I know, that's what they do. Most of it is the music, though, because it's called the Irish Musical Festival. So there's
Okay.
a lot of different Celtic type music and Irish type music that they play, and people go and listen and enjoy themselves.
Sounds like fun.
Okay, so it used to be like the Taste Fest used to be here in Detroit on the Boulevard. You remember that? I don't know if you all ever went, but
No,
it kind of reminded me of that.
because I'm not in Detroit, so I never knew about that.
Okay. Yeah, they used to have that, but they don't have it anymore.
Well, the Irish Fest they do every year, and they do it down by the lake here in Muskegon, and it's a big thing because I'm glad they brought it back. And they used to have used to have the Seaway Festival, and then they turned it to the Lumbertown Music Festival. Now they don't do any of that. Well, I don't know if they were going to revive any of that or not now after COVID and all that. So, But we usually have in August, we have the Unity Fest, which is a Christian musical fest. And,
Mhm.
and they have, like all kinds of Christian groups that play, but they also have like some services and stuff that people attend. And then with the Irish festival, it's pretty much, again, for the Irish culture. So it's pretty interesting. They've been doing that for a long time.
Yeah, they used to have the ethnic festivals down at the Hart Plaza, two every weekend. Started in May, like they started with the country music, and then go on to
Mhm.
maybe September till it started getting cold, and then it's over after Labor Day.
So, Mary, did they stop doing those festivals for COVID or before that?
Yes, they stopped it. Um, they had very few when the COVID started. Then they really stopped it altogether because I think it was kind of lack of money too. So
Well,
they
somebody's,
started
It's always
just
that. Yep. Lack of funding.
withdrawing.
somebody's got to pay for all that. So,
Yes, sir. Because fortunately, our America messed us up for that one. Kilpatrick messed us up for that one. So, but
too bad. That was
it
a
happens.
hard time. That was a hard time.
Hmm.
I was just in Detroit, I don't know, about a month ago, maybe. And even though I've lived in Battle Creek for 40 years or so plus, I never really spent much time in Detroit other than to go to some, some ball games and, a couple of concerts here and there. But we have some friends that their kids are over there. So we went over there with them and we spent the day. And we went to the African American Museum.
Oh yeah.
You're familiar with that?
Okay.
That was an amazing place, and I never even knew it existed. I mean, it
It's
was
just like the-
Really?
yeah.
It used to be on the boulevard at Warren Avenue, back over there where I used to live. Then they built it down where it is now.
Yeah, it's downtown.
It was a small place first.
Right. Well, this is very impressive. Just an amazing. And they had the middle part of the museum is like the a recreation of the Amistad, I believe, a slave ship, and it has all the history about that. And it's just very moving experience to go there. So.
Yeah.
And,
Did you see the names of the famous people in the floor?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What's really interesting too is the Henry Ford Museum does virtual tours now.
Oh
for
really?
for the blind and visually impaired.
Oh,
Oh,
cool.
I didn't know that.
Oh, really? No, I didn't know that.
And they record them, so then you get the recording after they do the tour. Because like they did one recently, the ones that I've done with them is the Tiffany glass, and then they did one on furniture. And the last one I missed it because my computer was down, but I got the recording and I haven't had a chance to look at it yet or listen to it yet. Is the imagination, what they call the imagination exhibit. They just recently did that one. So they're doing, I don't know if they're going to do any more virtual tours, but those are the ones that they were doing during the summer.
Darn.
And
I'll
then
put that in the chat. So if anybody.
Yeah.
Okay.
what I can do, Roger, is I can probably send you the information on how to connect up with that.
Okay.
Yeah. And then also if you guys have never been to Port Huron, you should you should go there. There's a lot of people don't realize there's a lot of, like, Thomas Edison did a lot of work
history
in Port Huron.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
it's one of the largest immigration points other than Ellis Island in New York.
Really?
Yes.
And one of the
That's
last
interesting.
remaining lightships is there also, and of course Fort Gratiot Lighthouse.
Yep. So
Oh,
the Port Huron has a very interesting history because when we had a convention there, we had a bus tour of Port Huron and they told us all kinds of cool, interesting stuff. So
I did not know. I've never been to Port Huron, so I have maybe take a visit.
yeah, so just some interesting, facts about, different places in Michigan. Like in the Benton Harbor area, there's, what the heck did they call that now? There was a group that had created It was a religious group at one point in time. They had created this
Right.
big amusement park, and now they're reviving it. I can't remember what it was
Oh, are
called
they?
right offhand, but
Huh.
there's a whole big history about all that stuff, yeah, in Benton Harbor too.
Mhm.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know that. I've been to Benton Harbor several times, and that's
What the heck? I can't, yeah, and it has a religious kind of connotation name to it. I
Yeah.
can't remember. I'll have to
I
ask
lived-
my friend Kay about that again. So what was that called?
I can't remember the name, but I lived in Benton Harbor for, well, St. Joe for 18 months and was remaining just a ice house was about the only thing that remained of that. And I can't remember the name of it now.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. though,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah. And I
yeah.
understood it was,
The whole
big,
big they had somebody do a presentation of a whole big history because I've been connected up with the group down there with their visually impaired group. And when we were on conference calling, because Kay Cornwell and I originally connected up because she was interested in our summer camp program. And from there I got connected up with their group that meets monthly, and we're meeting by conference call. And last time we had a even though they're going back to the senior center where they meet, they clued me in with somebody's iPhone so I could listen to the presentation about the history of all that and how the different how it was formed and what happened to it and how these investors did this and that. And I guess they're reviving it again, but they're calling it something different now.
Yeah.
But it's just really interesting.
So you mentioned Kay Cornwell's group down there in Benton Harbor. They had 3 or 4 people that joined us in the virtual winter camp last February.
Yes, they did because I gave them the information and shared that with them. So
Right. So we've kind of lost. They haven't kept up with us on the chats, but we hope to try to keep in contact with those guys and see what's going on.
well, I'll let her know, because I'm still in contact with her, and we're supposed to meet for our book club on Thursday, so I'll let her know.
okay.
I did something fun this summer. I didn't go to a lot of festivals, which you kind of missed that. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're doing
Yeah.
fine.
I was getting a message that my audio quality might be compromised. But we went to my daughter-in-law rented a house over in Holland, Michigan, and so we went there for 2 or 3 days with their kids, and so we went to the Dutch Village. Have
Oh, yeah.
to the Dutch Village?
Mhm.
I've been there. That's a lot of fun to visit Dutch Village.
It was quite an experience, and one that I really enjoyed because I like old school tourist attractions.
Mhm.
And this thing's been around for quite a long time, and
I don't know that.
it's quite an experience. We went to the windmill,
Mhm.
to the windmill park, and learned about the windmill there, and it was quite an interesting little excursion for us.
Yeah, I
Right.
bought a pair of wooden shoes there.
Yeah. And just a point of information, did you know the miller there is the only certified woman miller in the world?
Yeah, that was amazing.
She went and became certified and she's the miller there.
Oh, wow.
Although they haven't done any milling for a while, I guess.
Oh,
Okay.
I suppose, yeah, with the COVID.
Apparently COVID kind of shut them down for milling, but so I don't know if there's, they talked about being able to buy the milled flour in the gift shop, but
Mhm.
I told my wife, I said, well, if it's really the flour that they build, it's going to be a little bit old by now, unless they've kept it frozen, I suppose. But
Mhm.
anyway, so that was interesting, and I like old things, and that was just an amazing piece of equipment. I mean, that's a huge structure,
Yeah.
and I guess maybe you know this, Art, but I guess it was used over in Holland as a lookout during World War II.
Oh, yeah.
And,
I was aware of that dimly, yeah.
yeah, and so they, for some reason, they were able to dismantle it, bring it over here to the States back in the '60s
Hmm.
to display over here in Holland.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
here in Muskegon, we have the Silverside submarine. It's a World War II submarine.
I've
And you
been
can
there.
take tours of that. We also have a landing troop ship, an LST, and people can tour that. That's pretty cool. In fact, it's kind of funny, on the upper deck, they actually have an old rotary dial telephone.
So my kids were in Boy Scouts, and a couple of times we went over to Muskegon and stayed on the Silver Sides.
Yep,
Mm.
they would do that with the Boy Scout troops. And then we also have the Milwaukee Clipper,
Yeah,
the old Milwaukee Clipper that was the the ferry between Muskegon and Milwaukee, and you can tour the Milwaukee Clipper. And our Lions had a meeting there one time when I had my when I had one of my dogs. I think it was Honor, not sure, don't remember if it was Honor or Sable, but anyway, one of my two dogs, and the guy who was the curator, he took footprints of my dog and put them in the display as the first guide dog to visit the Clipper.
Oh, that's nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's really nice.
I used to be involved in Boy Scouts for a while.
Mhm.
Yeah.
so did you take some nice trips with them?
Yeah, we did. I don't think we ever did. I think if our trip did that, toured that ship that you guys have been talking about, I never went there. But, we, one of the trips I went on was out of state. It was for High Adventure, and it was to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania.
Mm.
And we did a couple things. We did some caverning in the mountains. So we did a tour there. Then we went whitewater rafting, and then we also toured, did 20 miles of hiking and toured the sites where they fought the Battle of Gettysburg during World War II.
Mm.
Well, that's cool. Yeah,
Sounds good.
Sorry, not World War II, the Civil War.
Yeah.
that's a popular excursion. Yeah, it's a popular place to go.
Yeah.
Well, when I used to live in New York, and and my dad would take us, on vacations, we've been to Gettysburg, we've been to Williamsburg, which also was interesting to go to Williamsburg. And then one year the newspaper had 1-day trips, so we took all of them. It was kind of cool because we went to Valley Forge, and we went up to what the heck is it, Military Academy up there in upstate New York. I can't think of the name of it right offhand, but we went there, and there was a trolley train
that's
museum in
Roger.
Connecticut we visited.
Yeah,
We
right.
got a lot of cool
Santa
stuff.
Claus is-
Right. You waved to you.
Oh. None of these.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And when we used to drive from New York to Florida, we just stop at places along the way and visit. We visited the coal mine in Pennsylvania. We visited the Ray Cavern. I think that was somewhere in Virginia.
Yeah.
A lot of cool places.
Did you go to Rock City
No,
on Lookout Mountain in Tennessee?
nope. But we did go
Yeah, I went to Milton,
we went up into
Lookout
Canada.
Mountain. Yeah.
We went into Canada, and we saw Upper Canada Village, Fort Henry, St. Anne de Prairie. We went to some of those places. It was pretty interesting.
Wow. So your
Of course,
family.
Niagara Falls, Niagara Falls, Horseshoe Falls. It was kind of interesting because at night they put colored lights on the falls.
Yes,
then-
that they do.
So they look like rainbows,
Yeah, it is a rainbow like, and then in the daytime, you can go in back of the falls and ride this, like ferry or ship or something on the ship, and they go right up to the falls, and
Yeah. Made of the
really
mist, we call it.
Yeah, and we got to
Pardon?
walk, we actually got to walk on a path behind the falls.
Mhm.
Because in the movie Niagara, and Marilyn Monroe wore these like cloth shoe things, and you had to wear like a
Plastic raincoat.
Yeah, plastic raincoat. And I'll never
Yeah.
forget because my mom and my sister and I were changing. And my sister comes around and says, "Mom," says, "Marilyn Monroe wore these, like, ew." But we had a lot of fun walking under the falls, and then we took the Thousand Island tour, which was interesting too.
Hmm.
And what was funny about that is that the pilot, the boat pilot, he says, he goes, he says, okay, everybody, he says, watch out for the yellow line because we're crossing from the United States into Canada.
Yes,
But there really wasn't any yellow line on the water, but people were looking. It was funny.
right.
Surprised they didn't have border patrol sitting there, to check your passports.
Not in the day because we were on the boat. We weren't getting off the boat. So,
Right.
but
in
one
the-
time when this is kind of funny. One time I was with my mom and dad and they were here in Muskegon, and we were going to visit my cousin in upstate New York. So we drove to Detroit and we drove through Canada, and when we were coming back into the US, and I had my guide dog with me. And so he goes to my mom, ma'am, where were you born? Brooklyn, New York. My dad, where were you born? Brooklyn, New York. He asked me, miss, where were you born? Brooklyn, New York. So then he goes, where was the dog born? I said, San Rafael, California.
Oh, you're from Brooklyn, Rosemarie.
Pardon?
Rose,
Yes.
you're
Okay.
from Brooklyn?
I was born in Brooklyn, yes. And I lived
Okay.
on
Yeah,
Long
my
Island.
aunt lived in Brooklyn before she passed on.
Yeah, no, I was born in Bushwick Heights, and then we moved to Ridgewood. We were in a couple of different places in New York. Then my mom and dad bought a house on Long Island, so then we moved to New Hyde Park, and I lived there until I moved to Salt Lake City, Utah, and lived there for 6 years. And I got my, that's where I lost my vision and got all my education and got a job
Okay.
here in Muskegon. That's how I ended up in Michigan.
Oh, okay.
Then I
that's
worked a
great.
year in Arizona for the VA, and then came back to Michigan.
Oh, wow. Sounds like you've done a lot of traveling later life.
So been around.
Well, you're lucky.
Yeah.
That, your parents like to take you around all these different places.
Yes.
My dad was a farmer, and I could barely get a ride into town in fact, I couldn't get a ride into town, which is 4 miles away, to be like a Boy Scout or a Cub Scout or play Little League,
Mhm.
too far
Well,
away. It was too
I
far
think
away.
part of it for me was that when my dad discovered, because I was diagnosed at 13 with RP, and when he realized that, that I was losing my vision, I think he thought that it was good for us to go on vacations and see as many things as I was able to see before I was going to lose my vision.
Wow. Well, that was
But he liked to
Okay.
drive, so that worked out really well for us. It
Mhm.
was kind of interesting because he worked as a sanitation man for the city of New York. So what he would do is all year long, he would collect all the metal and stuff that people would throw away, and he'd bring it home. And then just before we go on vacation, he'd take it all to the scrapyard and cash it in. That was our vacation money.
Okay.
Wow.
Very creative.
Great, great.
Well, even when he lived in Florida, he used to, we'd take all the soda cans and all that to the, to the scrap yard, and then he'd take that money and he'd buy seeds and day old bread to feed the birds with. So he's a resourceful man. He did all that.
what part of Florida did you go to?
They lived in a town called Hudson, which was right on Tampa, on the Gulf, actually, about 50 miles northwest of Tampa.
Mhm.
So it would be near Port Richey, Newport Richey, right in that area of, north of Tampa.
Right.
Mhm.
But now they're both gone, so now they live in Bushnell at the National Cemetery.
Well, there was a place.
Yeah.
My son lived down in Naples for a little while, and there's a little town, Bonita Springs, right north of Naples, and I think it's either 27 or 41 that goes through there. I think it's 41
41, yeah.
that goes through there, and there's a little place called. There's another name for it, or another name attached to it, but it's called the Wonder Gardens, and it was like a reptile zoo. And then it became a zoo, regular zoo. And so this place was started by two guys that were rum runners from Wyandotte, Michigan.
Hmm.
It was kind of an interesting story, because back in the Depression, when during Prohibition, these guys were driving across the lake in the wintertime in their trucks to transport booze from Canada back to the States. and they
Yep,
were
I've heard about that.
kind of involved with some notorious people back then, the Purple Gang,
Mhm.
Oh,
and so things got a little bit warm for them, and so they took off down to Florida, and they stopped alongside this area in Bonita Springs there, and just kind of set up camp, and that's where they stayed. But anyway, this is back in the 30s, so this place is still there, and it's now a rescue. It's now like a reptile and bird rescue. They rescue like parrots and cockatoos and macaws and all the different kinds of tropical birds that
Mhm.
people have and abandon or whatever happens to them. But it's an old school kind of a place. But one of the things that was kind of significant about it, and if you're ever down in Florida, you should check it out. But if you ever saw like some of these Disney movies where there was a bear, like a trained bear, this would have been back in the 50s probably.
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah,
That bear was trained at that little Wonder
that
Garden
facility.
place down
Yeah.
in Florida, and
okay.
so he was in this bear. I guess starred in several different movies, and but anyway, of course, it's like all these places. They have a book, and so you
Oh, yeah, yeah.
stop there and you buy the book, and you read all about the history of it. So
Mhm.
it was just
Well,
interesting.
where my folks lived, they weren't far from Witchy Watchy,
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
where the mermaids were.
Yep.
Yeah, Florida's an
It was
interesting
just,
place.
it was up there, up on Highway 9, is it 19? I think it was on Highway 19, like maybe a couple miles from where they lived. It was kind of funny. We used to pass Witchy Watchy all the time.
Mhm.
I-
So,
Yeah.
so
I
David,
just thought I'll interrupt it
Oh.
just for a second.
Identify yourself.
Oh, John C. Turner.
Hi, John C.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi,
Michigan is ahead, and so is Michigan State
Oh,
And the football games.
on the football games.
go blue.
All right.
So Johnson got a haircut. Looks like
Yeah, she shortened hers down.
it looks good. It looks good. I meant to say that when she was still on the camera there.
Yeah,
It looks
she
good.
likes short hair.
Well,
And I wish I had long hair, so.
Mhm.
well, one of the things that's interesting in my family history is my grandfather was a bootlegger on my dad's side of the family.
Mm.
Up in New York or somewhere else.
New York.
Okay. I guess it didn't matter where you went. It's every. So David, I was going to ask you. You're from Lake Orion, right?
Lake Orion.
Lake Orion, right?
Yeah.
So, what kind of interesting things happen around Lake Orion? Do you have festivals there or some things like
Well, there's this, not a whole lot, but there's this one festival that the local Lions Club puts on in June. It's called, it's in downtown Lake Orion, but it's called the Jubilee. Usually it's got rides and they do fireworks and there's food. And in the past they've had, not this year, but a couple of years ago, they had a band with a beer tent. I think there's sometimes a couple, we have what's called Dragon on the Lake. That's usually in August. That's where some boat racing happens. Sometimes they have fishing tournaments on Lake Orion. And then I think that's about it. Sometimes they have a food market downtown, but I've never been to that.
What was the Lions Club festival that you talked about? Was it Jubilee or something like that?
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay. All righty. Well, we'll have to check that out one of these days. So, did they have it this year?
Yes, they did. It was, they weren't able to have it last year, but they had it this year. The weather wasn't that great, but they had a pretty good turnout from what I hear.
I think a lot of people we're happy to get out and do things
Yeah.
this year.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There's some risk involved, but outside things pretty good. So what
Okay.
month is that held, David?
All right.
What month did they hold that?
That's usually in June. As you know, we had quite a rainy summer this year, so a couple of days they were having it was raining quite a bit.
Okay.
Okay, I was going to share with you guys too that I think it was the 26th of August. Lion Jack, if he's still on the line, he drove Shirley, Ron, and I down to the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor for a research project they're doing down there. And the professor, James Wayland, he's doing a mobility experiment.
Mhm.
Sorry, go
And
ahead.
what we ended up doing was that they have like a camera that has straps and goes over your head, so it sits on your forehead over your eyes, like, and then it sees for you. So like when you need to cross the street, it'll tell you when it's safe to cross.
Hmm.
Mm.
And
That's
also like
interesting.
and if you're working indoors, it'll locate hallways. It'll say like, you're coming up to a left turn, right turn. It'll tell you veer left, veer right if you're walking off course. Because this is with a cane. I don't use my dog for these experiments because they're for cane users, which is fine. I use a cane as well.
Mhm.
And so it was interesting because when you crossing the street on the outside, would say if you were not going straight, it'll say veer left, and then get you right to where the next curb cut is, where you need to to get up to the other side of the
Okay.
street. So it's a very interesting project that they're doing. He was saying that they also were trying to work on it, doing recognition of grocery products. He said that sometimes it was having a difficult, I guess it was with they had gotten it to recognize one of the artificial sweetener thingies. I can't remember what the name of that one is, but it
Sweet and Low?
originally, pardon? No, it wasn't Sweet and Low. It's the other one.
Equal,
Nope, not Equal either.
stevia,
Nope, not that one either.
Splenda,
That's the one, Splenda.
Splenda. Okay.
And
Reason why I said
originally-
I use it all. Use it all.
Well, I know if you said the right one, I would recognize it. But originally the package had a picture of a pie on it. So if it saw
Yeah.
the pie, it would not recognize it as Splenda. But then they changed the packaging and it wouldn't and the pie was gone, so it didn't recognize it anymore.
Oh, okay.
So they're trying to find other ways, because even if they change the font or the color, it would make, so they're trying to work on a system to recognize, grocery products, even if they change the packaging, that
Right.
it still could recognize, what it is. So, but it's all a very interesting project that they're doing down there. So they may ask us to come down again. I was down back in the spring. And then about a year ago, I went down because they were trying to get to recognize doorways at that time when we did that. And then this year I went down twice. Once, I think it was in June, we went down and they tried the outdoor one, but the camera wasn't working correctly. So we scratched that and we did all the indoor one. And then this time we did all the outdoor ones and it worked, worked better. So they're still working on it, but it's an interesting project. But if
Sounds like it might be an
anybody's
interesting
interested-
program for winter camp.
But and that may be something I can talk to Jim about and see if he wants to bring his team to winter camp and get some people to to try it out, work on it. Because
That
we
sounds
talked about
interesting.
doing it at summer camp, but he wasn't able to arrange that so quickly because it was too close,
Mhm.
But
If you can send me his information. Or if you
But
guys-
anybody who's
guys
interested
wanna
in
talk to him.
participating, I can give you his email, Roger.
Okay,
And then if you can, in this way we can distribute it to the, those of us who have email, who have the email, and if they're interested, because you get $100 gift card for participating
Nice.
Hmm.
as an incentive.
So how'd you guys find out about this?
Through the Michigan Council of the Blind and Visually Impaired. That's the blind organization, our state organization. It was on our list, our main list. And it was back before COVID. So there was a couple of different ones. And I like to participate in research projects. And I think the American Council of the Blind, does some of them, but then there's also some that are just local from Michigan. I guess they just look for blind organizations and
Oh yeah, that'd be
somehow,
that'd be the
and
target
somehow we
audience.
got connected up. So, but that's how I found out about it. It was through our blind organization, local blind organization.
So what's the fellow's name? Whalen?
James Whalen, it's Weighlin. I believe that's how you spell it.
I'm sorry. Spell the last name again. WH.
I think it's I want to say, no, I don't have it quite, in front of me, but I think it's Weighlin. And if that's not correct, when I send you the email with his information, I'll have the correct spelling.
Okay. So is this, they built a little town over at Michigan, or University of Michigan, to test driverless cars.
Oh yeah, that's M City.
Yeah. I didn't know
No.
if it was some extension of that technology that they're.
No, it's separate. This is at the university itself.
Okay.
Hmm.
Separate
They have a research building there, I believe, and that's where we usually go.
thing.
I think it's like 2700 Plymouth Road.
Interesting. So
Yeah.
what part of is this like Western Michigan has a whole program on blind and visually impaired mobility, where a lot of people go to get master's degrees in this.
Right.
And most of the students that when they come over for winter camp are grad students of that program. And-
Right.
But I guess I wasn't aware that, maybe that Michigan had a program like that, but I don't know why they
I
wouldn't.
don't think they do. I think this is just a research project that this group is working on.
Okay.
But I'll send you his phone number. I'll send you his email, and you can communicate with him. Roger, how's that?
Okay. Yeah, that'd be
Mhm.
great.
Yeah, just tell James. Just
That
tell him that
sounds
you
good.
talked with me, and he'll recognize me. So.
Sure.
But in order to participate, you have to go through a screening process, and they ask you a bunch of questions and things, and then if you pass everything, then they set you up as a participant.
I see.
Hmm.
That is really
Sounds good.
So it's kind of like it almost sounds like it's like a personal version of Be My Eyes, that we've talked about on here before, and I heard about recently where you're on an iPhone and you dial up this number, and a person then is looking through your iPhone to see what's in front of you, so that they can direct you, in certain ways.
Yeah, Be My Eyes is is my best friend.
Okay.
Well, because like when I go grocery shopping and I come home and I got three, if I get like 3 different kinds of instant oatmeal, 3 different flavors, and I want to know which is which, then I just call them up and they help me identify the boxes, and I set them where I want, in order where I want them. Same thing with, I buy like little yogurt things, and I buy like 4 of this kind, 4 of that kind, 4. They'll help me identify them, and then I can set them up in my fridge so I know what they are and where they are.
Okay.
That's really good. Yeah, we saw a demonstration of that at the conference, the Lions Club Forum. Terry Huffman, who several of you know, she was the speaker, and basically talking about technology and, or actually it was about diabetes and blindness. But
Mhm.
what a lot of it was about was technology that people could use to, overcome their blindness and the challenges. So that was one of the things that was talked about. They actually called them and did kind of a live demonstration in the, they called and said, well, please describe the room to me. And so the lady was describing the room, and it was quite interesting. I think a lot of people didn't even know that existed. So,
Right.
it's amazing what what's available, I guess,
Mhm.
But yeah, that's very interesting, Rosemary. I'm glad you mentioned that because that, as Art said, it might be an interesting thing if they could come to camp and just even to give a demonstration.
Well, because they're, like I said, they're right now they're in the experimental phase. So what they could possibly do is bring their team and get volunteers to participate, but they'd have to arrange it, prearrange the participants because they'd have to be screened prior to
Right.
them being able to use them as participants, because then they have to sign, waivers and such too.
Right.
That Be My Eyes program you're talking about, we have some volunteers in Northside Lions Club who are part of that. And it's a strictly volunteer people who do that. And when you call, Rosemary and I were when we were at a blind thing, and they called, and we asked who the person was. They're from Texas, but just whoever gets a phone call at the time,
Mhm.
who's available, and we had a nice chat with them. Besides learning the color of the shirt Ron had on and a few things like that. But
Oh, it works really well, doesn't it, Jack? 'Cause in fact, when Shirley and I were here together, and she had gotten her new laptop. It was something we were trying to set on it. We couldn't figure it out. So we called Be My Eyes to look at the computer screen for us. And we got a gentleman from San Diego. Because he sounded like my cousin. And I said, are you in San Diego? And says, yeah. I said, okay, my cousin lives in San Diego. Sound just like him. So we had this little conversation, but they were the guy was really helpful and we got what we needed to do taken care of. So, they can look at your computer screen, like you're booting up your computer and then nothing's happening. You don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
You can call them and they can look and say, okay, this is like when my computer took a dump because my hard drive crashed. It can't, they were able to see that I kept getting the blue screen and it kept saying it couldn't repair itself. And I said, okay, that doesn't sound very good. And then we tried to, click on a few things and nothing happened. So, but it was good to know that at least it was telling, that at least I knew that it was having an issue that I couldn't fix,
Mhm.
Yeah.
The oh gosh, what was I going to say? Oh, I was going to ask Jack about how do you volunteer for Be My Eyes?
I'd have to talk to the people who do it, but I think you probably could go on the internet and Be My Eyes or through the Lions. I think it's all Lions members I know of that are on it right now. I just know one of our people from Northside East said, I'm on that program, and he takes a few calls.
I don't think it takes much to get in touch with him because I had my cousin on the phone and, we were talking about it. And while I was on the phone, he went and signed up with them right away.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Well,
So I don't know if he found it on his phone and then just, if there's a form or something that you fill out for it or what, but there's a lot, and they're not just here in the US, they're all over.
Sure.
It's one time I was trying to get my product key off of one of my JAWS programs. No, it was an Office program that I had. It was a long, before they stopped giving actual, folders and CDs and all that. And I actually got a lady from England.
Oh, wow. Well, that's pretty cool. I'm going to check into that because I think that's we have some folks in our Lions Club that can't really get out and do things,
Right.
and it'd be a great way for them to volunteer and provide some service. I think it's a great idea. I kind of knew that maybe, but I didn't really realize it until just today that these are a lot of Lions Club members and probably other people doing it.
Mhm.
Yeah, all kind of people. They don't have to be Lions. They can be
Sure.
anybody who's interested in assisting somebody who has a vision impairment. And sometimes they're people who are just interested, period. I get people from all over the country.
Right.
And you can call at any time, day or night. It doesn't matter what time, not just certain times of the day. Like when I was in the hotel, At 6 o'clock in the morning, I needed to know which, which of the little bottles was shampoo, which was conditioner, which was,
Mhm.
mouthwash or
Exactly.
whatever,
Yeah, right.
because I didn't want to use the wrong thing. And, so I called at 6 in the morning, and sometimes it takes a little longer to get somebody, but, or if you can't find anybody, it'll just, give you a prompt to try again. And so you push the button again, and, and then it'll, you'll get somebody at some point. But it's random, and some people have, hush up. And some people will get it. It just depends. Like, some people, like I've talked to say, oh, this is my very first call. I'm saying, well, congratulations. And they can read pretty much anything that you want to show them. Like, I have to laugh because I have old 45 records, and sometimes I can't figure out who the artist is.
Mhm.
So, I get the record and I set it out on my table, and, and I call Be My Eyes. And if it's a younger person, I'll ask them, said, have you ever seen a 45 record before? They go, no. I say, okay, well, you're about to have your first chance at looking at one. And the one I happen to need somebody to look at said, well, it says Mercury. I said, well, yeah, that's the manufacturer of the record.
Yeah, who did the song? Yeah.
I had forgotten about Mercury Records altogether because I
Right.
hadn't seen them in so many years. I'm like, oh yeah, that's, and then, and then I moved the camera. So then they finally were able to tell me who the artist was, because they saw the title and they could see the artist of the records. It's printed on the label,
Mhm.
and that was kind of fun. Another time I had albums that I had the wrong album in the wrong sleeve. And it's like, okay, what's the name of this album? This is such and so. What's the sleeve say? Oh, this is, I go, oh, that's not the right one. So then they kind of help me sort out so I can get the right record in the right sleeve.
Wow,
Okay.
that'd be fun. I think that'd be fun.
Mhm.
So you get all kinds of things. Sometimes, like, when one of the guys was looking for a particular T-shirt that had a certain saying on it, and they had to Be My Eyes look that up for them. They said, what does this one say? What does this one say? Till I got to the correct one that he wanted,
Mhm. Yeah.
So, they do all kinds of things to help you sort out things, look at things. The only thing you really don't want to use Be My Eyes for is credit cards or personal documents,
Mhm.
because they're not bonded.
Check.
So for that, I use IRA, because IRA people are bonded because they're paid. And this way, and you get 5 free minutes. So usually if I have a new credit card, I need for somebody to look at, or if it's a credit card, I don't know the number, they'll sometimes just take a picture of it and send it to my email or whatever.
Yeah, I think we had a discussion about this a few months ago. I think about the confidentiality with Be My Eyes and IRA. So that's good to know. Good to be reminded of why, one versus the other is better for those kind of things.
For certain things, yeah.
Right. So good. Well, thank you. That's anyway, it's been very interesting to hear about these, especially this experiment. What do they call that? Do you know? Do they have a name for that program at U of M that they're working on?
I don't know.
Jack, do you know that?
No, I don't
I don't
know
know
the name
either.
either.
Okay.
I'm there all the
No,
time. I put my 2 cents worth into them once in a while.
Uh,
we
what's
just
this?
call it the research project.
Okay.
You might want to just, if you need a title, you just call it Mobility Research Project. How's that?
Okay.
One thing I brought up to him was I was at a training seminar, and the fellow used the reference of a guitar, and he says, my brain doesn't tell my right hand what to do. And that's the same thing with the receiver that they're getting the directions from. I said, they asked them how it reacts and how they think about it. Once they use it a little while, it'll be automatic. It won't be have to stop and think everything when they get used to continually.
And sometimes you might get sensory overload because you You got vibrations going on and you have voices going on at the same time.
Sure.
So does it tell you what to do, or does it?
Yep. It'll tell you veer left, veer right, stop, forward.
Okay. So what are the vibrations then?
The vibrations will be, if you need to veer right, it'll vibrate on the right. If you need to go
Oh.
left, it'll vibrate on the left. If you need to go straight, it'll vibrate, both of them vibrate at the same time.
Huh.
No, it'll vibrate in front, and then if you need to stop, it vibrates both of them at the same time. No, they instruct you before they, have you do
Yeah.
these things on what the different, like one of the ones we did, like as we're approaching left-hand turn, you get 3 vibrations on the left, and then it would say turn left. So like kind of gave you a warning, or 3 vibrations on the right, and then you turn, and then it would say turn right, so you.
Yeah.
And then they also had this device as a belt that you wore around your middle, which I kind of liked better because you could feel the vibrations better. And if you need to stop and vibrate, both the ones in the back would vibrate. If you need to go forward, both the ones in the front would vibrate, and then the one on the left and one on the right, depending if you had to turn or if you were approaching a turn.
Uh-huh.
So it was intriguing.
Yeah.
Mhm. It sounds it.
So do you have a headset? Is it like a headset that you have on that?
Yeah, bone conductor headphones.
Okay.
Hmm.
Wow.
That sounds cool.
Pretty
So you
cool.
wore a camera on your head, and then you had the bone conductor headphones as well. And then you had carried this little battery pack with you. They called it football. So you kind of tucked it under your arm, kind of like a shoulder bag,
So they have a course, or do they just take you out on the street?
No, they take you out on the regular street,
Because I know
right out in front of the university there.
Teresa Guest, that does cane repair. She that's what she does. She works with students on mobility, and that's her classroom is the street, the sidewalk, and at least half the time. And basically, they work with canes, and I don't know that they work with dogs, but they certainly work with canes and how getting around and that sort of thing. So I'm
Mobility instructors.
mobility instructor,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to ask her about this and see if she knows anything about it.
Mhm.
And then they actually do the indoor ones they do in the hallways of the building of the research building they're in.
Okay. Very cool. All righty.
Yeah.
Well, we've gotten to 2:30.
Mhm.
Okay.
Anything else we want to discuss before we let you guys have the rest of the afternoon on this beautiful day?
I guess we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good.
I've been recording
I'm good.
a session. I almost forgot to do it, but
I heard that.
Yeah.
it's early in arts devotional, so we've got the recording, and I've made a few notes, and I'll make more notes probably in the chat. So
And I'll email those 2 things to you right away, Roger.
that'd be great.
Good.
I got one thing to bring up. Rosemary made a comment about volunteers not being Lions. We had that at our meeting. We're finally getting together to have meetings now. We've got some people, like especially at summer camp, who are good volunteers, but they're not Lions.
Uh-huh.
And we have to recognize them as part Lions, but they're not international or district,
Mhm.
And we've had the same thing with our own club. We got certain projects that people put an awful lot of work into, but they don't want to come to meetings and pay dues. And
Right.
we're trying to utilize them, no.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, they, that we've been talking a lot about, Lions stuff like that, and one of the things that they're suggesting these days is that if you form a branch club, like say your volunteers that are doing, like your summer camp and those sorts of special projects, you can form a branch club, and they're kind of under the auspices of, say, the parent club, like are you in the North Muskegon Lions or Muskegon Lions or Host or whatever? But anyway, you could have them form a branch club, and then they can if I think the dues can be whatever you guys decide. They don't necessarily have, because they may not meet with you guys. They may just do their service on the side and do whenever they want to do it. And it's a little easier, and they could meet virtually if they wanted to meet too. That we've got a club here in our area. It's called the Branch Wellness Lions, and they're with the Teconcha Lions Club. And essentially, they meet. They get together for service projects, but they meet virtually. When they have a meeting. So it's kind of a different way, but they still count as members. And like I say, they probably still would have to pay whatever the the state and international dues would be. But if they could have fundraisers to raise the money for that, or if they wanted to, I suppose, or do something. But anyway, just another concept. They don't necessarily, because they're finding that there's a lot of people in Lions, especially young people, that aren't Lions because they don't want to go to a meeting, with a bunch of old people, and so they're interested in doing service, but not necessarily interested in having to go to a meeting for a couple of hours or whatever, so this branch club, and actually virtual clubs have gotten to be a thing too, where they have virtual clubs, and a lot of them, they might be all over the country. The people might be located all over the United States, and primarily it's younger people, like under 40. So they gave some presentations at the seminar I went to, and it was quite interesting. And to do service, they'll say, okay, on this day, we can't do a service project together, but we're going to participate in, World Something Day, environmental day or tree planting day or something. And wherever we're at, they go out and they do that, they go out and do that service. So there's different ways to be Lions than,
Right.
typically might think. So, but certainly, Jack, you need to keep asking those folks if they want to be Lions, and tell them what a great thing it is. It's a good value equation. But anyway, so we're going to start getting our stuff together on winter camp and start getting some information out to everybody.
Okay.
And if you guys have questions, or I'll get the recording together and get that emailed out on YouTube, a YouTube link. And so I don't know how many people I should go in and see if anybody actually looks at it. I know you probably do, David.
Yeah, I have the last couple of times since I'm at my baseball games.
Right. Anyway, we'll do that. I think that's it's great technology, and I really
it is.
We're continuing to do this just to get. I always learn something new every time we get together. So
Right.
That's right. That's what that's all about, right?
that's exactly right. So
That's it.
and and it's just nice now. So I mean, I'm not surprised that we've not had a lot of folks through the summer doing this, but as the weather turns colder and people are inside more, maybe we'll get a little more participation. So
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully.
yeah. So with that, we'll go ahead and sign off for today, and
Okay.
we'll let's see, October. What's October look like?
I think it's the 16th is the third.
That's the
Saturday.
16th, the same as the district convention or district
No,
college district conference.
Yeah, that's another one. So the 16th of October is what for our district it's called the Fall Conference, and it's where everybody comes and gives money to the projects. So not every district has that, but and I'm going actually to a wedding that weekend. So
Right. So
would we want to rearrange it to another weekend, or
Okay, Roger, can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
Okay, which one of us?
you go, Mary?
Okay, I was thinking about, okay, we instead of having every month, how come we can't go quarterly every 3 months?
We can do
instead
that.
of every month.
Well, I think
I
you
know.
lose some of some of the impetus, maybe other month. or
Continuity,
if
yeah.
We want in October, we can just do the second, because I think that third weekend also is our virtual state convention.
Okay,
the
so what about
Michigan
every,
Council.
if you're gonna do it every 2 months, every 2 to 3 months? Every month?
Every 2 would be fine, probably.
I think every two would
Yeah.
be better, because unless, once we all start going to winter camp again, I guess then we can maybe do it every 3, but I think as long as we're not getting together, it might be helpful to have it every other month at least for a while.
Okay,
to get it
hopefully
right.
like in November, we'll be able to
Yeah.
go to camp and he'll send out the, applications or what have you. I'm sure everybody be done had their shots by then.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Mhm.
we'll be,
So what you think, November or December?
well, let's go for November and we'll just kind of check in and see how things are going and,
Yeah, just avoid Thanksgiving weekend.
Okay, November 1st falls in on a Monday.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, so go from there.
Well, the
So-
third Saturday would be 20th, the week before Thanksgiving.
All right, then, so why don't we do that? That would be good.
The 20th of November?
Mhm.
Okay, that's good. Thank you, Art. But every 2 months, yeah. Why not?
That's not good.
Rosemary?
I just thought that's not good for us because
Yeah.
we have our Michigan Mittens meeting that Saturday, because we usually do it the 4th Saturday, but because of Thanksgiving, we're going to do it on the 3rd. So why don't we do it the 2nd Saturday in November instead?
yeah, we could change it, we could change the date there. That's not a problem.
Okay,
Yeah.
the 13th?
We just
13th, day before my birthday. All right. Okay, we'll work.
set the date as the 3rd just to have something consistent. So, there's no reason we can't be flexible on that.
Right.
Mhm.
So we'll say November.
So what you gonna do, the 20th or the 13th?
No,
13th.
no meeting in October then.
October.
Yeah, no meeting in October.
Okay, so you're gonna
So
do.
November
what'd
the
you say, November
13th is what we're going to look
13th.
at.
Okay, November 13th. Okay.
Roger will
good.
send out reminders.
Yeah, we'll send reminders early. Well, of course, I'll send something this time about it, but then I'll probably send something out next month and then before the meeting. So just so people are reminded.
Okay, that'll work.
Yeah.
That'll
So we're
work.
going to go with the 13th.
November the 13th, yeah.
Okay, I'll have to remember that.
Okay, I remember.
Send you a note. Put it on your calendar
All
now.
right.
So,
All right then, everybody take care.
okay,
You
great.
too.
Thank you,
I
Mary.
was
And
gonna
love
say
you
we
and
can-
love you all.
Love you all too, Marion.
Okay.
Take care.
Okay.
Blessings, everybody.
All right.
All right.
Goodbye.
Thanks for calling in, Jack. Good to see you.
All right, take
Good
care,
to see you
everybody.
again,
Bye.
Roger.
All right, you too, David.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye-bye, everybody, and blessings.
All right. Bye-bye.
Oops.